Here's a fact about Paranorman. I recently watched Paranorman as part of a Leica marathon. Now, when you hear this, one of two things come to mind. The first is, why did you name a film marathon after the first thing to go to the moon? Well, not only is she in every movie that came out after that event, but she's also the namesake of the film studio of the same name. As those in the second group know, they are responsible for, in chronological order, Coraline, the previously mentioned Paranorman, the Box Trolls, Kubo and the Two Strings, and the Missing Link. They're also working on a new film set to come out later this year called Wildwood. I watched these in release order, except Wildwood. However, to be honest, by the time I got to Missing Link, I checked out, so I booted up Donkey Kong Bonanza and Bonanza'd my way through the rest of the marathon. Completely unrelated, there will be spoilers for Paranorman and Kubo in this video, and maybe a few accidental spoilers for Bonanza as well, just saying that to be on the safe side, you know how these videos are. Also, for anyone who's wondering why this video isn't about Coraline, even though I promised it at the end of the last one, that's because I watched all these back to back and I kinda had my wires mixed up, so sorry about that, and I hope this video fills the void for ya. Anyway, back to Paranorman. The film is about Norman, who has the ability to see and talk to ghosts. And the film keeps this concept very simple. The only things that are established about this ability are that it's in some way hereditary, as his great uncle has the same ability, and that the ability extends to other types of undead, like zombies. That one is a late film spoiler, by the way. If you don't want any more spoilers for the things mentioned before, go away. Anyway, this simplicity makes sense. It's a kids movie, and putting in complicated caveats like this would make the kiddies go, what? And really, the only question that the film leaves us with is, where did the powers come from? At least that's what you'd think, but I have stumbled upon a trail that leads to one of Leica's other movies, which may hold the answer to this mystery. Which one? You already know, it's Kubo. I literally gave you spoiler warning for you, you moron. It's Kubo. It's Kubo. So in this episode of FactsAbout, we'll discuss both of these films and get to the bottom of Norman's ability to see beyond the grave. Let's para this Norman. As we discussed before, Norman's ability to see ghosts is shown to be unique to him, his great uncle, and maybe Agatha, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. However, and once again, spoiler warning, in Kubo, this undead-seeking ability seems to be shared by Kubo and the residents of the village at the end of the film, and Kubo uses this ability to defeat his grandfather, the Moon. Now, how do we know everyone in this village can actually see these ghosts? Well, in this shot where they're all gathered around Kubo, none of the people are going through the ghosts. This would only happen if the villagers could see their ghostly loved ones. Otherwise, they would basically be tripping over each other. Also, they all make eye contact with each other, but that could just be a symbolic coincidence. Doesn't prove anything, really. But something to note is Kubo's ghost vision is tied to a ritual, lighting lanterns at dusk and putting them in a river, so this might not actually be the key to solving this mystery, but just a simple piece. There doesn't appear to be a way for an individual to view ghosts without the use of a ritual, unless we bring up another rule about ghost vision that I didn't mention until now. That being how ghosts appear. You see, in Paranorman, it's established that you only become a ghost when you have unfinished business. However, this is likely only based on Norman's observations and what he's gathered from the ghosts in his town. Let's use that rule and lawyer it up to make this guideline. People become ghosts when they have a reason to come back to our world. This would explain why the ghosts in Kubo only come back during the festival, as they have no reason to show up otherwise. Now this brings up another question. If this is an established ability in-universe that is so common that an entire village has it, how come most people don't believe in Norman's ability? I have two theories for this. The first is that this ability was one that people eventually lost as time went on. We don't know the exact time Kubo takes place in, except that it takes place during feudal Japan, which took place between the 12th and 17th centuries. Now, it would be reasonable that a genetic trait would be lost over a few centuries, but if it were this recent, there would probably be some sort of acknowledgement of it at some point in Paranorman. Something like, no one's seen a ghost since the 1500s, or I read about ghost watchers in a history book, too bad they don't exist today. My next theory is that this trait is exclusive to Japanese people. Kinda like Guilty Gear. Now, I know what you're going to say, and I've got the response. Very bold of you to assume that Norman isn't at least partially Japanese. I mean, the oldest ancestor of his we know of to have the power was a settler in the 1700s, which makes her very likely to be European. But Kubo predates Agatha by at least a century, and at most a few more than that, and genes carry around fast. So while neither Agatha or Norman appear to be Japanese, they could still have that ancestry somewhere. This actually explains why Norman's parents never get him psychiatric help for his ghost vision problems. They don't think he's schizophrenic, they just think he's a weeb. This also recontextualizes the town council sentencing Agatha to death, as witchcraft being an established thing known for centuries makes the council's "we're scared and ignorant" seem more hollow. Along with that, their sentencing seems a lot more racially charged, making it illegal to use witchcraft which only Japanese people can use. Which means that Agatha was actually weirdly justified in her actions. Concerning. Now we have proven where Norman's powers come from, you may think that this is where the video ends. Unfortunately for both of us, the trail goes deeper. Kubo has other powers besides ghost seeing, as he is the son of a goddess, who is the daughter of the Moon King, and these powers manifest by playing a guitar. Now you may ask, isn't ghost vision the only power Norman has? And while yes, it may seem like that if you weren't watching the movie and instead playing your Switch 2, we know of at least one other ability, but the film never brings attention to it. During the film's finale, Agatha uses her powers to repeatedly ram Norman into a tree. Very violently, might I add. You'd think, at best, a few ribs would be broken, but no, Norman gets out of this basically unscathed. Another thing to note is Pauline's powers, as previously mentioned. She has telekinesis strong enough to slam people into things, she can blow things up, break the ground beneath her, and what else? Oh yeah, the curse that caused the entire story. Now these powers clearly do not come from the afterlife, as literally none of the ghosts from either film have extraordinary powers. The closest thing we get is Kubo's finale, where their energy is used to defeat Void Kong, but that was clearly Kubo's work. So these powers must come from the same place as ghost vision. Genetics. This also explains why Norman doesn't have powers like these, as those genes would be weaker in him than Agatha. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that Kubo is a distant ancestor of Norman. The only mystery left to solve is how these abilities are able to be used without music. Well, we'll have to look at another Leica film, The Missing Link, in which Norman can sing to cause Link to transform into other animals such as a zebra and an ostrich, which should clear that up. Maybe Norman was singing in his mind to use his powers. Music is a powerful thing after all. So now that we've proven that Norman is a descendant of Kubo, the video's over, right? No, because we can go even further. Alright, follow me here. Reincarnation is a belief that one soul never dies and instead finds its way to a newborn upon death. This is a belief held in Hinduism, which is a religion primarily based not in Japan, but somewhere close enough, India. Now, the reason I bring this up is because I believe that this world works on reincarnation, and I know what you're going to say. We already know how the afterlife works. Someone's soul lingers depending on when they're needed, and yes, that's true, but you haven't considered what happens when souls go beyond the veil. Really, anything can happen. It would be a real shame if we got any glimpse of the afterlife in either films. And we really don't, at least not in these two films, but if we manage to connect these two films, why can't we connect another film? Spoilers for Coraline, we're going to jump right into the endgame, so if you don't want spoilers, turn back now. Alright, near the end of Coraline, she is taken to an afterlife by the kid she saved after she took care of their unfinished business, and it's actually very hard to conclude what religion it's based on. The first thing of note is that its background is very reminiscent of Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night. Van Gogh was a very devout Protestant in his life, but I doubt that has anything to do with this choice. Another thing of note is the form the children take. They resemble how angels are depicted in Christian pop culture, but instead of halos, they have discs and they're shiny. Which means that the afterlife of this universe isn't really based on our existing religion, which means that we can use whatever rules we want for this afterlife, if only I can prove that reincarnation exists in these films. Luckily for me, I can prove this. Let's take a look at Beetle, or as his identity is revealed to be, Hanzo, Kubo's father. Let's do a quick recap of Hanzo's story. Hanzo was a great samurai who managed to woo a goddess and had a child with her. When her dad found out, he was furious and had Hanzo turned into a giant beetle with amnesia. However, his wife, who thought he was killed, takes their son and books it. Later, after many years, they rediscover him in a cave. Now, doesn't this seem suspicious to you? How do you mistake someone getting cursed into a beetle for getting killed. Makes no sense, let me tell you what really happened. After Hanzo was killed by the Moon King, he chose to reincarnate as a beetle, knowing that while he wouldn't keep his memories, he would keep his spirit. So he began training for 12 years until he became the piece of whatever bugs are made of you see today. This reveals a few things about how reincarnation works in this world. First, not only do you get to choose who or what you reincarnate as, but also when. This explains why the villagers do not reincarnate, as they'd rather hang with their descendants than move on to the next life. And if you need more proof that this is possible, look at Kubo's mom, who uses the last of her magic to transfer her soul into Dixie Kong. This is hard proof that reincarnation exists in this universe. You may wonder why I'm bringing this up. Well, if reincarnation exists in these movies, where is Kubo, or more specifically, Kubo's soul? Well, if I had awesome powers and I died, I would want to move into a body with something similar to those awesome powers. You know where I'm going with this. I believe that Paranorman is a reincarnation of Kubo. Now, I don't have anything to definitively prove this, but come on, it's just a theory. Now, to those who are sad the video ends here, I have great news for you. We aren't done yet. We can go further. Alright, so I've presented a theory on how Paranorman is actually a reincarnation of Kubo, and this is a theory based on fact. This is not fanfiction. Fanfictions are for girls, theories are for men. But we can go one step further, my dear FactsAbout truthers. Let me ask you something about the continuity of this universe. How come Coraline is a child in Missing Link even though she was a grown adult before? And we know that this is the same Paranorman as the one in Country, which is the same one that has interacted with Mario, who in Odyssey meets adult Adelina. It makes no sense unless Coraline is somehow a prequel, but it can't be because Peach is the only character with a different age, and how come Donkey Kong Jr. was in Mario Tennis? Well, worry not, because I have an explanation. Have you heard of reality shifting? It's a phenomenon where you can shift to other realities, very popular on TikTok. The reason I bring this up is because I was going to call what I'm about to explain reality shifting, so I would like to kindly request that you throw out this definition so I can make way. Now, reality shifting actually means changing the rules of reality by whatever methods you can. You know who can do this? A god. Like the Moon King, but what if you could use something like the Bananza root, which appears to be able to grant wishes, but unlike most wishing devices, doesn't seem to have any caveats, so you can just wish with it as many times as you want. And once you've had your fill, you can pass it off to the next person like the slut it is. Speaking of sluts, you need to go pretty deep to get to the Bananza root, and going beneath the ground is something a lot of Laika characters do. Paranorman revolves around zombies rising from the ground, Kubo goes underwater to get the armor unsomethingable, Coraline goes down deep into the other mother's place, Susan lives in a cave, and of course the box trolls, which I know are part of this universe because, I mean, can you prove that it isn't? Live in the sewers. Thank goodness I watched the movies in reverse order for this so I know what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is that Kubo went underground and found the Bananza root and wished to become a boy who lived in Massachusetts who could see ghosts in the modern day. You may ask why Kubo decided to do this, and well, mind your own damn business, okay? The next question is, why would Kubo not wish for everyone to not be mean to him? Well, it's because our only other reality shifter, the Moon King, didn't want Kubo to have an easy win, so he reality shifted so that everyone fucking hated him. You may say, didn't the Moon King get amnesia and lose his powers at the end of the film? Well, he could have gotten them back at some point. Maybe that's why Kubo pursued the route. But we're not done yet because, as I've said multiple times throughout the video, we can go deeper. Now let's get into the intentional meta-narrative into this theory. Studio Laika is named after the Russian space dog who was sent to the moon. She lived a full life on the moon in-universe as the Moon King cared for her. But since the Moon King doesn't exist in real life, unlike the moon itself, don't let them tell you otherwise, she died in space. The Moon King's existence is the caveat to Laika the dog living or dying, just like how the Studio Laika can thank the Moon King for its further survival. Ergo, Studio Laika either planned out all their movies in a cinematic universe, or they are time travelers who use their power for art rather than killing Hitler. After all, the moon is in every Laika film in existence. Like this video if you think Laika should use their time-traveling abilities to kill Hitler. But if you need one more bit of proof, don't worry, I got you. But one last warning for spoilers though, this is when we get into the real weeds of it. Have you seen the post-credits scene of Paranorman? Well, if you haven't, let me fill you in. At the end of the normal credits, the end appears. but then a question mark appears as well. And then King K. Rool appears and you have to fight him by throwing chunks of the Bananium Tower at him, and then you appear in New Donk City where you have to go through one final gauntlet. And then once you reach the end, you have one final confrontation with K. Rool. Now, you may ask where I'm going with this, and let me answer that question with another question. Why the fuck is K. Rool here? That's not Laika, that's Nintendo, what the fuck? The only explanation for this is reality shifting, case closed. Except I have the true, definitive, smoking gun. Kubo and Paranorman are written by Chris Butler. He's even the co-director of Paranorman. I have said Paranorman 15 times in the script, by the way. If you find them all, you may get a prize. You may ask, what does that have to do with anything? Well, this proves everything. You see, creators love putting their works in the same universe. For example, every Quentin Tarantino film is in the same universe. Mario and Donkey Kong also exist in the same universe, and my boss wanted me to mention the Litterverse, and I didn't know what that is, so she wrote me a note to explain it to you guys. Dear Litterans, the Litterverse is the fictional, and she did capitalize this, multiverse in which every piece of Litter Channel media is a part of. I bring this up because I would like to ask that you, the viewer, please check out something besides FactsAbout. Because I would rather have a pack of hungry wolves eat my liver than see the Litter Channel become the FactsAbout channel. Well then, that has implications about my existence that I'm going to have to fully process off-screen, if there even is an off-screen for me. The point is, this explains all these connecting threads between these two films, and not because works from the same person tend to have similar ideas and themes even if the works are extremely different. It's because they are canon to each other, and if you think I'm wrong about this, which I'm not, I am the only person who understands Laika Studios besides the artists themselves. What are you gonna do about it, punk? Thanks for watching, Facts About Truthers. If you liked the video, subscribe to the Litter channel, and try to see if there's any more connections. Next time we'll be talking about the Weird Al iceberg.